Today, we're diving into a chilling personal account from inside a facility the narrator, known as the buyer, calls Blacksite Berlin. We're going to walk through his story, exactly as he tells it, a journey deep inside a system of absolute control and torment.
This quote really says it all. The experience he describes wasn't just about being locked up. It was about every single second, around the clock, being turned into a deliberate, perceptible form of torture. There was no escape.
So, let's step inside. The buyer never calls this penal psychiatry unit by its official name. To him, it was something far more sinister, a place he knew as Blacksite Berlin. So what exactly is Blacksite Berlin? Well, in the buyer's account, this is no hospital. It's a clandestine prison, a true black site. The staff there, they were acting on behalf of German, American, and Russian state actors, all operating under the cover of an international deep state. The entire purpose of the place was psychological warfare, to systematically and completely break a person. The campaign against him started with the most fundamental things we all need to survive: food and water. This is where the systematic breakdown began. It started with the food. First, the clinic's meals were laced with drugs. The doses slowly ratcheted up over time. Then, even the food he bought himself from an outside service was contaminated. It wasn't random either. Specific items were poisoned in a rotating, unpredictable pattern. This was all designed to get him to complain, so they could then dismiss his complaints as pure delusion. A perfect trap.
And the physical toll was absolutely devastating. After a year and a half of this, his weight dropped to under 60 kilograms. That's less than 132 pounds. He was physically wasting away, a direct result of this war on his food.
So with his food supply completely compromised, what do you think was next? They moved on to the next essential for life. The target became his water. This was a desperate, escalating hunt for a single drop of clean water. First, the sealed bottled water they gave him was tampered with, so he switches to the tap in his bathroom. But an informant spots him, and boom, that source becomes contaminated. The kitchen tap is next, same story. His absolute last resort was a secret tap in the laundry room, forcing him to sneak around in constant fear of being caught, just to stay hydrated. But the attacks didn't just stop with sustenance. From there, they escalated. They became much more direct, much more physical, a full-on assault on his body. Things took an even darker turn after he was overheard confiding in another patient. Suddenly, gas started getting pumped into his room at random times, disorienting him. And as if that wasn't enough, a whole new, horrifyingly personal ordeal was just beginning, this time centered on his dental health. And this timeline, it's just shocking. This was a deliberate multi-year campaign of dental torture. It started with altered toothpaste that rapidly destroyed the enamel on 11 of his teeth. Then, a mysterious woman supervised a procedure where a chip was implanted into his jaw. After that, while he was physically shackled to the dentist's chair, a perfectly healthy molar was drilled into, deep, with no anesthetic. That was followed by over a year of chronic, agonizing pain from 7 intentionally failed fillings on that same tooth, until finally, they just pulled it, leaving a permanent hole. You can just feel the agony in his words here. Imagine the excruciating pain of that drilling, made 1,000 times worse because he was physically restrained, completely helpless in that chair. He couldn't even flinch. So this all builds to a climax. Remember that last secret water source in the laundry room? Well, he was finally discovered. And that discovery, that's what triggered the trap to be sprung. It happened one morning, right after his early secret trip for water. He'd managed to get back to his room and fall asleep, but that sleep was shattered by a sudden, violent, and overwhelming show of force. His door is kicked in. 2 police officers with a riot shield storm the room, screaming at him, jolting him from sleep straight into a full-blown raid, accusing him of having a weapon. Even though he was calm and surrendered immediately, they handcuffed him and dragged him out into the hall. And the corridor was just packed, wall to wall, with police officers. He was removed from the building, officially accused of threatening someone with a knife, the final move in what he knew was a long, elaborate setup. After the raid, he's transferred to an isolation cell in a completely different building. Now, you'd think this would be even worse, but incredibly, the move actually brought him a brief initial moment of relief. It created this bizarre paradox. On the one hand, the isolation cell felt like a sanctuary. The gas attacks stopped, he had clean food and water, and most importantly, he was away from the staff on Station 10A. But on the other hand, new threats emerged.
The police tampered with his belongings, he was forced to give a DNA sample, and he received a direct, chilling threat from a high-ranking physician. And here's that threat, word for word, from the Belgian chief physician. It was an unmistakable warning that his brief moment of safety had been noticed, and that it was about to be brought to a very intentional end. So the buyer's entire account leaves us with this one final, unsettling question. In a system designed for total control, a system meant to break you down piece by piece, what happens when every move you make to escape is just another part of the trap?